Greetings. I want to share a little story with you today. But let me begin by recognizing what our great leader of the 20th century, Marcus Messiah Garvey, said to us. That a people who do not understand their history, their roots, are going to be lost because you don't have no understanding of where you're coming from. And therefore, it's going to be more difficult for you to realize where you're going and on the foundation in which you are existed on. The World Cup has recently been held in the Americas. And if you are a sports fan, or even if you're not, and especially if you're from the United States of America, those of us who are world thinkers refer to it as football because that is what it is. It's a game that you play with your feet. That's why it is football. And in any language, that is what it is. Let's think about that. So I'll not refer to it by any other name because I'm talking about international football played by the vast majority of nations around the world. If you observe it as I did, you'll notice a remarkable manifestation. And I'll give you an example. And one team from Europe is an individual. And here is another team from Africa. Is another individual. And both of them are brothers. So the African is playing for Europe and the African is playing for country from Africa. Now, you will also notice the quality of football being played by principally the African teams. The World Cup is now 48. It used to be 32. It was 24. And when I was involved, it was 16. Mainly the Europeans and some South American sides. But what I want to do today is to acknowledge an individual which is not very well known. He's my mentor and a very good friend. And his name is Neville Glanville, who I refer to as the father of community-based football in Jamaica. Let me repeat that. The father of community-based football introduced at the Kingston and St. Andrew Football Association level in 1973. We have a book here, right? CASAFA plans new football deal. CASAFA revamps the football system. Unfortunately, this publication has no name on it, doesn't acknowledge the individuals. And that, in fact, is part of Neville's personality. And therefore, he attracts people like myself who are of similar, you know, philosophy. But my job here today is to provide that information. So, this is documentary evidence. And I'll mention, if I can, you can go to the archives of the Gleaner Company, Daily News, to do your own research. Articles written by Hubert Great, Daily News, um, Daily Gleaner. I know of Curtis Myrie. I don't remember the other person from the Gleaner. Very outstanding sports writer. But it comes with age. But the Kingston and St. Andrew Football Association, through Neville Glanville leadership, was he alone? No. He had Russell Bell. He had Alfred Sims. He had myself. He had many persons who were involved in the process. But the leadership, the principal leadership, was of the persons who I just mentioned there. Community-based football. Now, I met Neville sometime around between 1970 and 1972 in Toronto, Canada. I have a bit of difficulty trying to pin down the exact time, and he also has that thing. But nevertheless, was within that period. And he explained to me his desires about, you know, carrying Jamaican football to another level. And I recall his basic philosophy that I took from everything is that Jamaica does not lack talent. Africa does not lack talent. It's not the talent, it's the structure and the organization that can take this talent and bring it to being exhibited nationally and internationally. And I'm going to give you a little secret about that individual, Neville Glanville. Because not only did he affect Kingston and St. Andrew and eventually Jamaica football, but he also indirectly, what you are seeing and what I started this with, he had a hand in that. Yes. Let me tell you how that took place. You're not going to see it in any official document. It's not in the chronicles of FIFA. It's not in the chronicles of CONCACAF. It's not even in the chronicles, so to speak, of the Jamaica Football Federation. But Avalanche came to visit Jamaica. I don't remember exactly when, but I'm doing the research on that. I'm not sure if, I think yes, he was president because he came twice when he was lobbying to become president and when he became president and had the idea to expand the football to include Africa. And he was very passionate about that as to how, he could get more teams from Africa participating in the World Cup. And no doubt he might have had a little self-interest because he got Pepsi Cola, the international uh, conglomerate, to sponsor football, youth football, through FIFA. And it had a great impact. But listen to this. Neville Glanville had authored a document for the development and structure of the Jamaican football. Remember what I said earlier about the necessity to have a structure which deals with it. And if you read this book, and I'm not sure if it is in publication, but this is something that I think those of us who are around need to try and get this more out there so that people can read it. It's all there. It's right there. Avalanche heard that, and he took that document and the ideas contained therein, and he told us that he was going to carry it to Africa to introduce this to the different federations that existed in Africa and to get them to begin to think this way. That's it. We saw the manifestation, and I called my friend Neville and I reminded him of this, that yes, there are many key persons in the life of the world, the nations, that their name, no one will hear of them. But I think it's my responsibility and duty to make this small contribution in recognition of Neville Glanville, the father of Jamaican community-based football. Yes, there are many grandfathers. Yes, we stood on the shoulders of other great persons. The philosophy is not abstract. This gentleman here, Sailor James, beyond a boundary. And I think if my memory serves me correct, we have to be grateful to Russell Bell for introducing this at the time. Although I had my copy even from before, because I was an avid reader and was very interested in Caribbean scholarship. And so I had studied. In fact, I met CLR James and honored him at the University of the West Indies when I was part of the leadership of the Guild of Undergraduates. I was the vice president of the organization responsible for external affairs, and I was instrumental in having him come to the university and, met with us, the younger folks who was carrying on the, as we call it, the struggle. No, I don't refer to it as a struggle. I don't struggle. I just manifest and live. But back to, because that philosophy talked about the role of sports and cricket. And that was the foundation. That was the idea. Because community-based football, what did it do? It brought out the love, the need for relaxation, enjoyment, the social aspect of the ordinary Jamaican people. We started out with the urban community, but this then spread very slowly to rural areas. So we were doing the community work in thing. Let me just give you a list of the 1974 teams. Some may exist, some may not exist. I don't know. Afro Youth Club from Kingston 10. Boys Town, Collie Smith Drive. Calabar Old Boys, the Red Hills area. Dynamic Youth Club, which is along the boulevard. Golden Aces, Hanson Spring. Golden United, again, which is near it around Constant Spring here. Great West United, Kingston 11. UNN, Hill Star Youth Club, round Stony Hill. National Jamaica National Reserve, Lucas Cricket Club, Melrose Old Boys, Mobile Reserve Sports, Nascimento, Pembroke Hall, Railway, Rennock Lodge. That's my little area that I grew up in East Kingston. Santos Football Club, of which I was a foundation member. Swallowfield, St. George's Old Boys, Tivoli Gardens, Ujama Youth Club, University of the West Indies, All Saints, Jamaica Defence Force, and Real Mona. Those were, I think, the 1974 sites that started this movement, this philosophy. You will see certain things inside there. You may say, what is it? For example, St. George's Old Boys. They had an era, it was around Emmett Park. You'll say, for example, the Jamaica Defence Forces, a community of soldiers and police, for example, right? So we were able to rationalize and to grow with the understanding from where we were with the idea where we wanted to go. Because I recall, we had to help the clubs in crowd control. Because before, very few people would watch any game. The games were held at the stadium, and as a young man, I used to jump the wall. Yes, I used to walk all the way up the stadium, and you jumped over the wall, only to find that the game was free. But as young men, that is what, because it's our love for the game. And that is where someone like me started. I eventually, just to give a little example, although this is about Neville, right? I need to talk with him and develop, but I knew that he was with Lucas. He's a sports person. I think he played for the national team. I'm not sure if he played for cricket, but he was an outstanding cricketer. He was just an outstanding sport person. One of the books that he wrote, you will not see his name on it, unfortunately, is coaching, about coaching, right? You see, it's what he developed. It's there, it's documented. We went on to talk about 10 years of balling, which is an analysis of looking back on the road that we had traveled from 1973, I think, to 1983. These are documentary things and things which I think we need to make sure that they are available for historical records and to clarify that what you see, the manifestation of what you see, there was a foundation. Seed was planted and it is now blooming. Has it matured in a manner in which, for example, I would like? Not really. Because if you're following international football, you will realize that there are different elements. One, different elements which have impeded and murky the waters around. The morality question has affected international football and Jamaican football. Morality. I won't get in too detail into that. There's very little morality that has affected it. The second element is corruption. And this is linked to, unfortunately, the system in the Western world which manifests itself in greed and the accumulation of money at the expense of the ordinary people and of their interests and development. So people have used it for their own personal gain, to enrich themselves, their families, and some has paid the price, and others will no doubt pay the price in the future. So those are some of the negative that has emerged. But one thing I can tell you personally, that individual that I'm telling you about, he taught us about the whole question of being morally upright, being honest, and above all, even to a fault. And I'll give you a quick example. Even to a fault, to be non-corruptible. And that is one of the things which I can speak eloquently about, directly about in those days. And I'll give you a quick example of how Neville Glanville taught us and guided us. We organized the Kingston St. Andrew football, and at one stage, we were charging $2 Jamaican for the bleachers and $4 for the grandstand. And the finals, we made the $1 million at that time. I don't remember exactly which year. We made the $1 million mark. The treasurer was part of our team, leadership team, that is, Alfred Sims. And we were counting the money privately in a hotel, after the game, because of the nature of some people who may want to share in the spoils. And we achieved that target of over $1 million was collected from the gate. Understand this. I think maybe there were about, 8 of us, including some of the young ladies who were the cashier and so forth. I was the secretary, I was there, make sure that documentation. And we were doing the work until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we had not eaten because we had just left the match, put things together, you know, put in place certain security measures. Yeah. And we were there checking the thing before lodging the money in the bank. And we were hungry. And we said, why not take some of this money and use to, order some Chinese food? I never said no. Now, looking back, maybe, administrative fees. Said no. We should not use any of the thing. Of course, to be quite honest, most of us at the time, I think we put together and did get ourselves something to eat. But that's just an extreme example of how we function. This does not mean that we were not labels as stealing, because most people could not conjure in their mind that you had people who dedicated themselves, who mortgaged their cars, who used their own cars to carry national team, to go around to the different fields on a play day with ropes to help in crowd management, who did not collect a dollar I won't get into my own personal situation. I was just a school teacher. I didn't get paid, but I was labeled and called all kind of names. Until later on, I learned that when they pay you for what you do, people will respect you. But that's another story. So the impeccableness of his leadership and guidance at Kit Kasafo and at the Jamaica Football Federation level is unquestioned. So all praises to the father of community-based football, Neville. The brethren, one love, one heart. What is beautiful, we are still on top of the earth to talk about something that have taken place 54 years or more. So take care.